Some things are not meant to exist, not because they are dangerous, not because they are evil, but because their existence breaks something fundamental. Across decades, people have described encounters with entities that don't fit any category. Not ghosts, not animals, not people. They don't behave like anything we recognize, and that is what makes them disturbing. These encounters don't begin with fear, they begin with confusion. People see something standing where nothing should be, a shape, a presence, a figure that looks almost human, but fails at every detail that matters. No face, no eyes, no expression, just form. Witnesses often say the proportions are wrong, too tall, too thin, limbs too long or too still, as if the entity learned what a human looks like but didn't understand why. Many report the same thing. The entity does not move naturally, it doesn't walk, it doesn't react, it stands, or it appears. And the moment you notice it, something inside you reacts before thought. A deep instinctive rejection, not fear, rejection, as if your mind knows this thing does not belong in reality. One witness described seeing a figure standing at the end of a hallway. No face, no clothing, just a smooth, undefined surface where features should be. The lighting was normal, nothing else was wrong, but their body refused to move. Not paralysis, refusal. They said their mind kept repeating the same thought. This should not exist. Another person reported seeing an entity in a field late at night. It was tall, completely still, no visible eyes, yet they felt watched, not emotionally, physically, as if attention itself had weight. When they looked away and looked back, it was closer, not moving, just nearer. Many encounters include this detail. The entity does not approach. Distance changes without motion, as if space itself is unreliable around it. People who encounter these entities rarely scream. They rarely run. They freeze, or they leave quietly, almost politely, as if they fear acknowledging it too directly. Another recurring detail is silence. Not the absence of sound, but a flattening of it. Ambient noise feels distant, muted, as if the environment lowers its volume. Some witnesses describe their own breathing sounding wrong, delayed, out of sync. In some cases, electronics malfunction. Phones stop recording. Cameras fail. Screens freeze. Not dramatically, subtly, as if documentation is discouraged. What's most disturbing is what happens after. Many people who report these encounters later disappear. Not immediately, not dramatically. They slowly withdraw. They stop posting, stop responding, stop being reachable. In online communities, this pattern appears again and again. Someone shares an encounter, others respond. Days or weeks later, the account goes silent. No explanation, no update. In a few cases, people vanish physically. Missing person reports, abandoned belongings, no signs of struggle, nothing linking the disappearance directly to the encounter, except timing. Skeptics argue coincidence. In many cases probably are, but the pattern remains unsettling because of how often the encounters include the same features. No face, no eyes, no visible intent, just presence. Some researchers believe these entities are misinterpretations, neurological events, momentary perception failures. But neurological explanations struggle with consistency. Why the same shape? Why the same emotional reaction? Why the same language across unrelated witnesses? Others suggest these entities are cultural archetypes, but many witnesses had never heard of similar stories before their experience. They don't describe demons. They don't describe aliens. They describe something incorrect, like a corrupted file, a form without context. Some theories go further. They suggest these entities are not intruders, but errors, byproducts of reality, artifacts that appear when systems overlap, like two layers briefly occupying the same space. The entity is not meant to interact. It is not meant to be seen, which is why recognition feels dangerous. Several witnesses report the same instinct. Do not acknowledge it. Do not engage. Do not let it know you noticed, as if attention itself changes the situation. In one account, a person reported locking eyes with where the eyes should have been. They described a sensation of pressure behind their forehead, a sudden wave of nausea, and the overwhelming certainty that something had gone wrong. Not that they were in danger, but that reality had misfired. They left the area. They did not look back. For weeks afterward, they experienced anxiety, disorientation, a feeling of being slightly out of alignment, as if they were still partially connected to whatever they had seen. Some people report dreams afterward, not nightmares, repetitions, seeing the same figure standing at different distances, Always silent, always watching, never approaching, never leaving. Others report nothing at all, just an unshakable sense that they should not talk about it, that speaking about it might invite something back. These entities don't behave like predators. They don't hunt, they don't chase, they don't threaten, which makes them more disturbing. They don't seem to need anything. They simply exist, and their existence feels wrong. Some researchers speculate these entities are perceived during moments of instability, fatigue, isolation, emotional stress. But many encounters happen during ordinary moments, walking, driving, standing in familiar places, nothing unusual preceding the event, which removes many psychological explanations. Another unsettling detail is that these entities are often seen near liminal spaces, hallways, fields, empty streets, stairwells, transitional areas, places designed to move through, not remain in, as if the entity exists between states, not fully present, not fully absent. A mistake that appears during transitions. Some witnesses describe the feeling that the entity noticed them noticing it, not through expression, but through a shift, a tightening of the environment, a sense that the situation had changed, as if the rules were different now. And then the encounter ends, abruptly. The entity is gone. The environment returns to normal. Sound resumes. Movement feels correct again. But the witness is changed. They carry the certainty that what they saw was not meant to be there. And that certainty lingers. Years later, many can recall the encounter with perfect clarity, not emotionally, visually, as if the memory was imprinted differently. Some try to rationalize it. Others avoid thinking about it. Very few try to investigate, because investigation implies acknowledgement, and acknowledgement feels dangerous. The most unsettling possibility is this. These entities may not be rare. They may simply be unnoticed. Our perception filters out inconsistencies to maintain stability, but occasionally the filter fails, and something slips through. Not something hostile, not something intelligent, just something that doesn't belong. A remainder, an error, a thing that should not exist, and yet for a moment does. The question isn't what these entities are. The question is why we can see them at all, and what it means when reality briefly allows something impossible to be noticed. Because if one thing like that can exist, even briefly, what else is hidden by the rules we take for granted? And how fragile are those rules really?